Welcome to The Simple Actor.
So that was a long spiel. I don't
No,
even
that was
got it.
that was so brilliant. And I commend you, but two, I mean, shows like Outsiders, Dear Van Hansen, they're not the only ones. We're having these conversations. And I feel like, when you're talking about casting in New York and LA and kind of big productions, this all filters down to like where we are at the university level. This filters
Yeah.
down to high schools. When I was, again, like the first show my high school ever did was like Steel Magnolias or whatever. And the conversation wasn't like, can we make this happen? It's like, it just doesn't happen. So the fact that the conversations are being had, the change is being done on the top level, it filters down to where we are at AMDA. It filters down to every other place that the industry touches, even from the very beginning. So I appreciate that. And it does matter. It does
Yeah.
matter, and things are changing. That's fabulous. And so quickly, just to kind of talk a little more about that, I know you're doing work with the Casting Society of America Alliance. Can you talk just briefly about what that is?
Yeah, the Alliance is a group of BIPOC casting directors in the Casting Society of America that came together after the racial reckoning of the country in the summer of 2020. A lot of the work that they're doing is building mentorship programs. There's so many intersectional things. There's like a training and education program with CSA that I'm also a part of. And so through that, we want to encourage younger people, since there's not a real major that you can study in at the university level. And a lot of the experience you learn on the job. And we want to make the career accessible for people, especially communities from underserved communities, is to offer these training programs and mentorship programs. So the idea is we pair a CSA member with someone early career in casting, or someone looking to even from an associate to director, connect them with other BIPOC casting professionals and help them get their foot in the door.
That's fantastic. So if people are looking for information about how to do that, or they're curious, can they go and just sign up on the website? Do they reach out?
Yeah. I believe the website is castingsociety.com, and they will have all the information about the training and education program, the mentorship program, and all the other things that the Alliance has been working on.
That's great. To Xavier, you're rocking it. I mean, that's just so many good things. There's so many good things. And I know, again, a lot of actors say, I'm curious about it, but I don't know how to get involved. And again, even when I was in my early years in New York, I said, how do you do that? Like, how do you get into casting? Like, I had no idea how to even begin.
I also just want to shout out another program that I'm a part of. Broader Racial Justice does this casting directive, which is a 9-week casting program that I am one of the instructor cohorts. And last year's program was such a success. Almost all of them got jobs in casting or another job in the industry. And I think applications are due tomorrow. I think tomorrow's the deadline. So I would encourage that if anybody's interested, apply, because it's a really great program. It's created by BIPOC casting directors for BIPOC people who are interested in casting.
Great. I'm going to put that in the description and the link too, so people can find it. Even if they don't make it by tomorrow, they can look forward to the next session or season. That would be great. Xavier, let's get down to business with young actors and all the questions that they have. I bet you've had these questions a lot, but I think the number one thing is, when you talk about light, when you talk about energy, for me as an acting teacher, a lot of times I talk about essence and how to tangibly do that, because we get words like, what's your essence? What's your light? What's your energy? How does that look to you, tangibly in a room?
I think by coming into the room and never apologizing, never apologizing for who you are, just coming in and just saying this is me, unapologetically, I think will give off your essence. it will, like, I think it'll show confidence, groundedness, all of those things that I keep talking about. That I think is what I think that's the way to be tangible about it, you know?
And when you hear things like there's always the casting rules, like don't look casting directors in the eye, do this or use the chair. Is there anything for you that's like never do this, or do you like everything's kind of on the table depending on the situation?
The eyeline thing, I would ask permission.
Okay,
Do you
great.
mind if I like do you mind if I like play to the table? Is that okay? Most of the time I'd be like, nah, sure, why sure, if that's part of if that's part of the if you need that for the song or whatever, sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask questions, I think is also a thing. Like, it's okay to ask questions. If you have questions about sides, it's okay to stop and start again. It's okay. I wouldn't say there's like no taboo. There's no real taboos, except like don't be mean, just like always lead with kindness. Don't be rude. Don't be rude to the reader. Don't be rude to an assistant or an intern outside of the room.
Or an accompanist.
Or an accompanist.
I mean, they're doing their best. Come on.
Yeah. They've probably been there for hours and their fingers are tired,
Yeah. Yeah.
In terms of like, you want to, I usually have a chair out for people to put their things down. But if you want to use it, like there's things like, yeah, I'm pretty like chill with things as long as you're not rude about it.
Yeah, that's great. What are the biggest mistakes that you've seen outside of, I guess, the confidence thing and coming in and not being prepared? Are there anything else that you're just like, I've seen one or two of these things happen, maybe try to avoid them?
Yeah, this I'm trying to think of like specific things. Like I would avoid, thinking that you made a mistake and then apologizing. Like, oh, I'm sorry. Like it's okay. Like you like, oh, let me just start over. It's like apologizing to me, I think it's just like try to limit it as much as possible. I think we as Americans, we over apologize a lot. So I think save it for when it really matters. Like if you like break a chair or something, like and then again, don't be rude. I think that's it, like
just be a kind professional.
Yeah.
Trying to do your job because everyone else is trying to do their job, right? Yeah, that's great. Let's get into like digital media stuff really fast, because I really think that that's like the big question on the table right now. Do we even think people are coming back into rooms by and large? I know New York is a little different, especially with musicals, like they were having some dance calls, etc. Like do you think we're coming back into rooms in the next year?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
We were talking about this a bit, that like we were like a little too comfortable in New York. We were getting a little too, oh, let's just be in person as much as possible. And then, Omicron came into our lives. But yeah, for the most part, like from June to October, November, we were doing much more in person than we had like anticipated. We have COVID safety managers at auditions now, so they're checking vaccination cards, they're checking temperatures, even sometimes we have on-site testing that has happened a couple times for a couple of our shows. And then December, January, we are reverting back to things over Zoom, things on tape, just because we want to limit as many people getting sick as possible. But I do foresee us going back to in person when we are able to, 100%.
Fabulous. That's exciting for people to hear because they're like, are we going to be self-taping forever? And with self-tapes, I mean, I think everybody's had to up their self-tape game. I was teaching self-tape stuff before COVID and then it like went crazy. So with self-tapes, are you still like, I dig it, it's what we have to do? Are you over self-tapes? Are there stuff that you're like, I wish actors would just do this? Give me just the real deal about self-tapes for you.
Having gone back to in person and now having going back to self-tape, it's a hard transition to go back. I miss being in the room with people. I feel like I can help people more in the room. If it's just me and you, I can coach you through things, and then, you know, for a callback, and I don't have that luxury anymore. But I think self-tapes is going to be here forever. Even pre-pandemic, it was a part of our lives. Pre-pandemic, if you couldn't make it to an audition, I would accept a self-tape. So now that there's like no limits on borders because of the virtual world that we're in, I still think that it's going to be a big part of our lives. In terms of like self-tapes themselves, the most important thing is that I can see you and I can hear you. And when it comes to singing, sound is important, because depending on how far you are from your camera, will pick up the best you've ever sounded, or it could just like wash out your entire sound. So I encourage you to learn how to watch yourselves on tape, so that you have power, you have control over what you're sending. So watch your tapes, be happy of what you're sending. Don't just be like, this is a one and done, I'm not even going to look at it, I'm just going to send it sort of deal. You should really watch your tapes, make sure that you sound good, that we can see you. I don't think people need to spend hundreds of dollars on equipment. If you can just tape your phone against a window where you get wonderful natural light, I think that's fine. As long as you are like doing the work, like you're connected with the scene, you understand the scene, you sound good, you have stylistically are in the right place with your music and things like that, I think you're fine.
Great. And this is another question to tag on to that. I know where we are right now, a lot of students are really concerned about like doing like the music overlay. Are you worried about all of that? Like, because they are so worried about sound, but I feel like it's a lot of extra. It sounds great if you can make it happen, but is that something to stress out about?
No.
Okay.
But I will say,
yes,
I can tell where you're not singing live.
Oh,
and that's not good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
When if you have a mic, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if I can tell that you're lip syncing to your own voice,
Yes.
that's not good.
Yeah. And even putting the track in, like once you tape it and they put the track in digitally to hear it better, do you care? Do you care about all that extra?
No,
okay.
No. I can tell like
people are taking so much time to do all the extra.
When you have like the one earpiece and then the piano sounds really clear, I know what you did, and that's fine.
Okay.
It's really more about you singing live in the moment.
Okay, great. That's good to know. And let's talk about Zoom auditions, because you have one, like even after this, right?
Yeah.
How hard are they? Are you just like, this is the worst of all worlds? Or do you like, what do you do with Zoom auditions?
It's like a solution for now, but it's not like sustainable, I find. Especially with musicals, like I can see for film and TV and straight plays that it's like, sure, we can make this work. Musicals, it's hard just because of the sound thing, because you have to play it on your end and all of that. So with Zoom auditions, we have like, I make sure that like any sort of technical difficulties is a-okay. Life happens. If the Wi-Fi cuts out, like here's my cell, like I usually give my cell phone to the actor in case anything comes up, like just text me so that I at least know that like if your Wi-Fi cuts out, that's why. I don't think that, So it's like we just Zoom auditions are just like you just got to go with the flow and see what happens and hope for the best.
No, I feel like it's the same on our end where we're just crossing our fingers and I'm like, just do it. Like, just go have your setup, have your stuff, and just hope for the best. Let's talk about social media. This is a conversation we constantly have in media class with musical theater students, especially, but for every actor, especially in larger markets, there's so much time put into social media. How much does it matter for casting your social media platforms?
I would say if you are unrepresented, it's good to have a website with just all your information, your headshot, your resume, pictures, and those, and somewhere where there's a phone number or an email readily available. I don't want to have to like go into a contact box sort of thing. So I think that's important to have. In terms of like, I use YouTube a lot if I need to hear somebody sing that I have never heard before, that I'm curious about. So if you have footage there, that's good. Instagram, I tend to use if I need to find something a bit more personal. As you know, if I'm going to be authentically casting something and I can't ask anything about your background, I will then go onto your Instagram and see what you're about, who you are as a person. So that's what I tend to use that for. Sometimes if you don't have anything on YouTube, sometimes I'll go to Instagram to see if there's anything of you singing. And then like I don't like Twitter, not really. Facebook, not really. TikTok, I use like leisurely. I don't really use it for work. So sometimes if something pops up on my For You page, I will like, oh, this is an interesting person I never heard of before. Maybe I'll just like favorite the video and just like clock it for later. I don't like really use it for like actual work. YouTube and Instagram really more so than anything.
That's super helpful. And I guess it doesn't matter the followers, the like you're just looking for the person, what they're bringing to the table, what they can do, right? That's so helpful because I think people get caught up, especially in social media land where they're building their own kind of personalities and platforms. They really care about, like, they're going to care about how many followers I have rather than my content or just who I am, not even content, just who I am and what I do.
Yeah, I could care less about followers, things like that.
That's great to know. So Xavier, I think we've tackled almost everything. I think, could you talk to the veteran actor who's been in the pandemic? Because I've had a lot of colleagues and friends, especially in the Broadway community, who were out of shows for a long time, or they've gone back, or the show's closed, and they're feeling really discouraged. So if you could even give 2 cents to actors down the road, what would you say to them right now?
You know, this last month has been really crazy. And I feel like we're all sort of in like this sort of PTSD of where we were at in March, of like losing work again, and the whiplash of it all, you know. And I think you know, like I think hold on to like how we felt over this last summer, where like things looked good, like things were fun, things were like great. We because I think that's like where we're just gonna go back to that. It's just gonna be waves, just for a little bit as we're in this pandemic. And I think it's just like trying not to like live in that dark space and try to like look to the future. Like in March 2020, we didn't know what the future was going to look like, right? But then we saw how things were shifting. We saw things change. And even though like this like little step backwards feels like feels like the way it was, we at least know where we can go from here. And I think that's something to hold on to. And also just like this, we got into this business knowing that it's fraught and it's like tumultuous and it's crazy and it's unlike anything else. And but that's also sort of exciting. It's exciting to know like what the challenges, that what else can we come that can get thrown at us and that we can overcome and will overcome. It's also sort of a thing to think about. Like, yeah, this is like a dark time, but like we persevere because we always have. Theater has been, storytelling is part of human nature. We've been telling stories since the dawn of time, you know, so that won't ever stop, you know. So it's like just holding on to that.
Xavier, I want to leave everybody with that. That's fabulous. Thank you so much for taking the time. You're kind, you're wonderful. Thank you for doing the work behind the table and behind the scenes for everyone. And I hope all of you guys get a chance to meet Xavier one day to audition for something that he's doing. But again, thank you for your wisdom and insight today. And we really appreciate it. Thank you, Xavier.
Thank you.